How's everyone doing today? Ready for cocktails in about an hour? Sounds good. Always humbling to be up here and be invited to be part of such an amazing event, an amazing topic, and just blessed to be that. And as we get started, I need to ask everyone for a little help. Is that okay? So when I moved here 4.5 years ago, I set a pretty audacious goal. At least that's what my friends and family told me. I said, how can you even do that? How can you even track it? And I said, well, you set a goal and you figure it out. And that goal was very simple: positively affect 1 million lives in the next 10 years. We're 4.5 years into that, and I'm tracking it, and we're doing it. And as founder of My Workout AI, I get to start adding zeros to that number. So here's where I need everyone's help. We're going to have fun tonight. We're going to learn a lot about an amazing topic. So obviously something we're all interested in, a topic that can change the world. Then we're going to have a couple cocktails, maybe some food, and then we all go home. And then what happens? We go back to our lives. So I'm going to challenge you in asking for your help. Join me tomorrow and start doing something. Let's start bringing health to the world and the things we learn today through technology in the ways that are out there so that we can actually make a difference. Sound good? Awesome. So I want you to remember 2 words tonight: equity and community. Let's talk about equity. Health and wellness, in my opinion, is a birthright. And we need to bring equity to the world, that everyone, whether they're here in Austin, they're somewhere in the middle of the world, no matter their economic situation, has access to expertise, to guidance, and everything they need to have more health in their life. And that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about is the technology that can help us do that. And when we do that, the second word, community, we start bringing people together. We bring them together, not just in our little community, but a global community. That's what technology does. We're actually going to talk about how we leave this world with technology too. We got a lot of things we got to confront today, right? And they told me not to look up to the left because anyways, we'll try not to. Obviously, we're going to talk about health concerns. We've heard this stuff. We're going to dive into it. And the barriers to wellness. A lot of the barriers is access in our mindset. And how does technology solve them in the evolution of fitness engagement through technology? It's amazing stuff that's going on in the world. Guys in the back, press a button. This is the test. There you go. Just press it 3 times. We'll get the whole slide up there. I promise we're not going to read all. We all have seen the stats: obesity. 39% of people are overweight, 13% obese in the world. That one just makes me sick because it doesn't have to be that way. Oh, there we go. 6 in 10 adults have a chronic lifestyle choice disease. Lifestyle choice. They choose certain things in their lives or not in their lives, how we do, and we all do this, that are causing diseases. When we bring technology and access to the experts to help us and guide us, we can drop that to 0 out of 10. That's how powerful technology and community can be. And we know the mental health, I know Julie's going to be talking about that. 280 million people are affected by depression. These are the problems we're trying to solve. And technology can help us there. Technology is going to help us with this. 42% of adults say they have a lack of time as the main reason. I grew up as a single dad, raising my 2 boys. And I coached Little League, soccer, and all that fun stuff. We got home at 9 o'clock at night, got them fed, got them to bed. Also had my corporate career, very successful and all that great stuff. But when do I hit the gym? I didn't use that as a stat. I had someone like my co-founder and best friend who taught me how to work out in my house and run the stairs after the kids went to sleep, and some push-ups and some sit-ups and basic stuff. And through technology, we get to reach the world to teach them some of these things so we can, again, take that stat and throw it out the door and bring knowledge. That's a big reason we have that too, is a knowledge gap. In technology, we get to fix that too. And the motivation. I know my best friend and co-founder has been a personal trainer for 3 decades. 50% of people drop out after 6 months. And we can solve that too with technology. We can give people the help they need so that when they go to the gym or they're at home or at the park, they actually know what to do. So they feel like I can keep myself from getting hurt and I can get results. And these are things technology gets to bring us, right? I see everyone's watches. We'll talk about that later, right? I bet a few of you in here could tell me what your heart rate is right now with your technology. What's the ring? I forget the new ring that's out that tells you everything. You can tell you your oxygen levels and all that, right? Technology. We solve these problems with technology. We're going to talk about it. We need to solve this one. And this is what we're going to talk about AI and my workout AI. What we're doing is 75% of people feel that program's not for them. As Jason says, I want to put personal back into personal training. And we get to do that with technology to help people. So we take these stats and we throw them out the door and we blow them up. And we start next time putting up stats of 8 out of 10 people can't wait to go put a little health and wellness in their life, right? And accessibility. With technology, it's 2023. It's going to be 2024 in a few more weeks. That should not be a problem. So we got to reach them. Again, community, and fill those technology gaps. And that's what we're going to do. That's what technology does. So everyone always asks, I like to save the world. I dream big. I have 1 million people I'm going to go make better, right? Now I want to add zeros to it. Back in February, my best friend says to me, hey, do you hear about this ChatGPT thing? And it was just, well, it's been out forever, as we all have learned, right? And it just came out and I go, yeah, it's fun. You should play around with it. And we're talking. And I go, oh my God. He's like, what? I go, finally, we can take your brain, put it into an app and not have to kill you to do it. And he's like, really? He goes, you can't. I go, that's what AI is. Trust me. And 9.5 months later, we'll launch that technology on January 1, along with the technology you guys have in your pockets and on your hands. And that's all out there. We're going to join that and bring technology because, oh, that went there. Okay. It's not how that slide's supposed to look, but we'll just pull it all up at once. How's that? Not that we're looking at it. So what does technology do? That's what we're here to talk about, technology and how it helps. Well, it's going to give access. Technology brings access, and it's data driven. And that access to coaches like Jason, to coaches online, to classes online, to knowledge base, so that you feel when you go to the gym or you work out at home, I want to continue this. This becomes a habit. This becomes part of my life's journey. And when we do that, we then can also, the AI, which is great, is take the data. We're going to talk about machine learning and AI. I know. And in my CTO, I did not allow him to come today because he'd tell me I'd be putting my foot in my mouth a little bit. I promise you I'll do that once or twice. But we get all this data, and with data, we can learn. And we start learning, we can start making better programs to help people minimize risk of injury and maximize their results so they have confidence when they're working out, so that 50% of people 6 months later don't stop. All of them keep continuing because we give them that confidence with knowledge. My workout AI, I always say, it's a personal trainer right here in your pocket. It's an expert. That's what it is. And that's what technology does. It allows us to bring expertise in that AI. We look at the algorithms, we look at everything, and we can figure out how do we make a workout program better. Like I said, we all have wearable devices, right? I see them all in you. You know your blood pressure, you know your oxygen levels. You know how to reach out to an expert and ask advice. We know our sugar levels, all that crazy stuff. Think about that. We have access to all this through technology. And then it's the community. Remember, the second word to remember is community. We are going to build community through technology, a community that engages people, that fosters connection. And that's the funny thing, right? We were talking about a little before. People don't think technology and community is the same thing, right? Oh, you're going to, or what when we watch our kids, they're sitting there, on a game, right? And not talking to us. But we can use technology the right way so that we bring people together, we get them to engage, we get them to want to partake and participate and support one another. We can take all the technology on our wrists and in our pockets and start creating this community, global community, where again, equality, access, equity, we level the playing field. That's the technology we have, and the more technology that's coming out that's going to do that. So let's kind of walk through it a little bit. We have machine learning and AI. I learned the difference about those two about 6 months ago when we started building this app. Again, I hired a CTO. That way I was smart. You can take technology and do an evaluation. So what we've done is we take Jason's brain, 3 decades of mad scientist stuff of how he puts workout programs together. That's the machine learning. And we teach it to the computer. And then we take the AI brain, and it's like putting rocket fuel in your car. Because now the AI can eval and say, all right, give us this data. What's your history? What's your body movement analysis? What hurts? What doesn't? What are your goals? And then create that customized program for you, for you, for you. That's very different than mine, than his, than yours. That's what AI does. You know, we talked about when I got so excited, we can take your brain, Jason, and put it into an app and take it to the world, because when we do that, now instead of a few hundred people he gets to help every year, it's a few 100 million and hopefully billions. That's what technology does, whether it's our app or someone else's app. I don't care. I want to bring it to the world, to bring it to community, right? So it evaluates, we get the data, then it's going to interact. That's the greatest thing about AI. It learns. So you start using it. How was your workout today? Ooh, this hurt a little bit. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to tell you to do this with your shoulder instead. Ooh, my knee hurts. Okay, we're not doing squats today. We customize the program, not for your goals, but for how you feel every day. How do we get people to not be 50% to drop off after 6 months? Is we get them to feel good every day, to adapt their program every day to how they're feeling, so that, guess what they don't do? And this is one of the biggest killer Jason talks about all the time. They don't plateau anymore. How many of you have been to the gym and plateau and you kind of stop, right? We don't want plateaus, and AI allows us to do that. And then we continue to personalize it. That's what we get to do. So I want to introduce you to our community. Meet Gaia. This is how we're going to bring community, and meet Phoenix. They're our avatars. They're called what we call our tech leads. So this is how we're going to interact with our people. And what does community do? It's motivation. It's shared. It's diverse knowledge. It's a whole bunch of this stuff. You can read it yourself. Empathy, emotional support. Have some fun with some gamification rewards, right? Social connection. Yes, if you sit there and just interact with your computer by yourself, but with Gaia and Phoenix and ourselves, human interaction, we can bring everyone together. Global networking. So again, we reach the world. Sharing stories. We all have tough days. I want to know I'm sharing a journey with someone who, hey, I had a tough day too. Hey, let me pick you up. Let me give you a hug. Let me give you a foot up your butt sometimes. Always in love, though, right? You got to get going. You're better. You can do this. But again, promoting equitable access to all, equity and community. That's what technology does. And we know what it does. It's going to empower. It's going to foster community. Enhancing happiness. This is my thing. We all have this light inside of us. Kind of glows. Part of our heart, part of our soul. And when we can empower people and help them feel better, look better, move better, that light starts to shine brighter inside. And when someone's kind of sad and down and defeated, what happens when they get stronger? They start to stand up. They smile more when they walk into the library, Starbucks, 7-Eleven, and that light starts to affect the people around you. And it lifts them up in our home, in our community, strangers we don't even know. We're going to harness technology to bring that knowledge, to get people moving more, get people working, get people to understand how they can put just a little bit of health with an expert. We're going to empower them through technology, because the future is bright. And here's the thing. Most people don't know this. In a couple of years, we're not going global because we're already there. We're going to the metaverse. And again, I don't think small. See, a lot of people in the metaverse get a little plot of land. I'm building a universe, and it's the health and wellness universe. And there's going to be amazing partners in there. And one planet will be, yes, the workout apps, not ours, all of them. Another planet, nutrition. Another planet, meditation. And you figure it out, health and wellness. And we're going to get a little controversial. If you don't know what journeying is, go look that up and what that does for so many people. We're going to bring that in too. We want to mix ancient knowledge with today's technology and tell the experts who think you can only be in this box to go away. And we're going to open the box up. And we're going to create this metaverse and get access to everyone. That's the goal. That's what technology does. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and some great stuff to come.
Thank you, Scott. Now let's welcome Julie Korioth.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you for having me tonight. Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Korioth. I'm the founder and CEO of Nui. It's a mental health app for athletes. Oh, yeah, I wasn't holding it close enough. I'm also a mental performance coach for young children, and I have my master's in counseling. So my question for you is, how many of you have children in this room? Raise your hand. Yeah, raise them high. Come on, let's be proud. And I'm praying for you, and please pray for me, because my goodness, what a roller coaster ride it is. One minute you think you've got it, and the next minute you know you don't. And I love this generation. I really believe that they are going to be amazing leaders for us moving forward. And I'm also concerned. I'm concerned because we know that they are in a mental health crisis right now. But I do believe that when they are equipped and when they're engaged and when they're empowered with technology, they can accomplish anything and get through many stressful situations that they will have in their life. So tonight, we're going to be speaking about mental health with our children and the lens of technology and the metaphor of a greenhouse. So let's all support our children's mental health with technology as the foundation. We know that the problem is right now is that the issue is that some of the issues anyway are psychosomatic symptoms. That's just basically saying that the emotional things that are going on in their head are manifesting through physical and biological ailments. So they're not sleeping as well. They're not able to handle stressful situations. They're not able to, move through life with just a little, with tools and resources to help them get through things. And so this is causing more anxiety, more depression, self-harm, and suicidal ideation. And yes, we are experiencing a rise in suicide. And once again, this is not to just talk about being scared about these things. We're also saying that, yes, technology can help with this. They are experiencing stress and are not able to build stress tolerance, in part because everything is instant access, right? Like, I love Siri and Alexa. As a single mom, they are my best friend. I've got my food order ready. They help me with Elf on the Shelf. I don't forget the elf. And I really need this instant gratification. But, we also think back to times whenever we would go to a party, or were invited to a party, I should say, on a Friday, but then you find something else to do. And by Monday, you kind of forgot about it and you heard about the party. Well, these kids are experiencing the fact that they're not there with all of their friends in real time. How do they get through that? That is stressful. Figuring out who they are in the world. Who are they? Are they children that are loved by their parents and family members and their community? Yes. But they're also finding their self-worth and thumbs up on their social media. Or if they get a new follower, that's love for them. That's real. So once again, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but how can we use technology to guide them and to say, that person, or maybe it's not a person on the other end, that's not your self-worth. We can teach them that. Eye contact, communicating, recognizing emotions. They lost a lot of this during COVID. And what do we do to help them gain that back? I mean, eye contact is so important. It teaches us empathy. And when they are on their phones, they lose that sense of identifying with others. They can start objectifying people. So there's no consequences around them saying hurtful things to a friend. And there's no consequences even for parents, because sometimes they may not know their kids are doing it, because with Snapchat, it's gone right away. So once again, it's not saying that technology is the cause of all of this. It's saying just like anything in life, out of all the past generations, we've all had to work through things to help enhance the next generation and to help them be thoughtful leaders of the world who are going to be taking care of us one day. So what can we as parents and a community do? Well, what we're trying to do is we're creating an app where we know that they will have everything in one place. The reason I wanted to go to the greenhouse effect is because when I started thinking about technology as a parent, I was feeling very overwhelmed. It made me think of global warming. I'm like, oh my goodness, there's fires. There is, earthquakes. There's triple digit days every day, and they're never going to stop. And they do stop, right? But then I started thinking of like, what small things can I think of in order to help my children in this next generation? And I started to think of a greenhouse. When they provide the proper water, food, sunlight, they have the things that they need to thrive. And that's what happens with plants when they're in these greenhouses. They thrive, they're beautiful. So the environment that we're trying to work with and create can be one of different things. When I was growing up, I don't know about you, that it seemed like there was more family members and community around. I had my great grandma on the next street. That's what I called her, great grandma on the next street. Great aunts, grandparents. And now it's hard to sometimes feel like we have that sense of community. What we can bring in an app is mentors. We can bring coaches, we can bring educators, people to help us. Like as parents, we're not meant to do it all. We need to have that support. And these mentors who align with our family values can help guide our children and to give them the support that they need outside of our home. When we think about transforming our children's mental landscape, what that means is their circumstances. A lot of times their circumstances, seem very out of control and they don't know how to bring that in. Well, what they can do in order to is what we can do to help them understand the circumstances is create almost a playbook. If the team is winning, it's because they have this playbook of all these resources to win the game. Well, let's help them create routines and a playbook where they know that they can help their circumstance in any situation. So, for example, one thing that they can do is a simple breathing exercise. It is less than 10 seconds, y'all. I mean, you breathe in through your nose, breathe in a little bit again, then exhale through your mouth. This can, before an algebra test or something, and I'm saying algebra because I just was dealing with this with my son. It can really help get them feel grounded and help them feel like they have control over their emotions. And that's what we're trying to provide them with is to set up this playbook of little things that they can do that seem tangible and easy and help them have control. Then we have users that can gain a new perspective. Sometimes our perspective and what we're thinking might not actually be what's going on. It might be coming from all of these different things and people saying this and a friend saying that. And then we come up with this idea of things that may not be true. And so there are people that can help us change our perspective, like master classes, which is what we want to bring in. We want to bring in thought leaders, musicians, sports, professional athletes, different people that can send us in less than 5-minute videos. At first I asked the kids if they thought about 15-minute videos, college students and kids, and they looked at me like I was crazy. They're not going to watch anything for 15 minutes. So less than 5, maybe even less than 2. But a video, it's almost just this space where they have a behind the scenes on how some of their favorite people in the world take care of their brain health. And then AI. I was scared to death of AI when I first started this. I was like, no way, my kids are not doing that. This is horrible. I'm so excited about it because even I have started to use it and little things that can we change our perspective in a matter of minutes? They can give you just little different tools around box breathing or this or that can help kids manage their stress levels. So the 3 things again, let's see, can I go? Okay, good. Once again, just talk about the environment. We can have mentors and coaches. And then we can have changing our landscape and circumstances by creating a playbook. And then perspective. Changing our perspective by using master classes and AI to help enhance our children and their lives and to help them feel equipped and engaged and empowered. And the reason I believe in this so much is because of my own personal journey. I've done all of these things. I did a lot of research. I did a lot of therapy. I've done it all. And what I realized is that I was always searching. I was always searching online. You know, the one silver lining with COVID is that it did help people talk about mental health more than ever. And we didn't have that growing up. And what brought about people talking about mental health is technology. And I searched and I searched and I found all these tools and I came up with my own playbook. And at one point, I wouldn't have been even been able to be here with you tonight because of a life circumstance that really kind of paralyzed me. But when you become equipped and when you become engaged and when you become empowered through community and through technology, these kids, they can do anything. And so can we. So thank you so much.
All right. And now George Luke, CEO of GivePulse. Welcome him to the stage.
Mic check, mic check. Thank you so much, Jay. Let me test this out here too as well. All right, awesome. Just had to double check. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Jay and Allison, for organizing this event. Just so excited to also learn a lot from other fellow entrepreneurs. I think one of the most important things to consider, at least for this theme, is to understand that in order to really, let's say, how do I say it? In order for you to have the capacity to volunteer and give back, you have to be physically able and mentally able. And so I so appreciate these fellow entrepreneurs trying to address these problems through their companies. But hands, curious, how many people volunteer? And I'm not going to define it. I'm just curious in terms of what the hands, oh, it looks like it's, what? No way. It's not possible. Is it really 80% involvement? Really? Well, what's really interesting is I think AmeriCorps, as well as the US Census Bureau, they just recently did an analysis from 2019 to 2022. And it turns out what originally was 30% engagement from volunteerism is now 27. So because of a mixture of things in regards to COVID, there's a decrease in volunteer engagement. So what you all have here, I think, is considered an outlier. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think I need to go in depth in regards to the benefits of volunteering. I could probably survey or even ask you all of you why you volunteer, but there's a lot of benefits. I think from the health impact side of it to you all volunteering your time to be here to learn and upskill your understanding of all the things that are important to yourself. This could actually be via AI, via a number of sources like Google. You could search all this information. I actually pulled all this information up recently. And I think the one thing that you should not forget is there are a lot of benefits. But I think a lot of the understanding of all of these benefits laid out on these sheets is really marketing. Because what I really want to get into the root of it is, why do you volunteer? Why do most people volunteer? Is it the social aspects of it? Is it really the health benefits on this slide? Why? I really ask myself that question too as well. Why do I volunteer even my time here at Austin Forum to present? Or why do I volunteer to help a nonprofit build their website? These are all things that I continue to wrestle with. When we ask the same question to most employees at various different companies, they too are like raising their hand. I think it was probably about 76%. I don't know if it's the exact number here. It's probably more like 85 because you guys are all really gung-ho. But there's a lot of individuals that are very interested in giving back, very interested in leveling up their skills, very interested in terms of how do they align themselves with a company that also cares, right? So there's a lot of data on this that shows that people really want to align themselves to a cause that's important to themselves. Now, I think one of the things that you need to consider here too is when we volunteer, when we ask someone to volunteer, we're trusting an entity that is going to be a great experience. We're trusting that when we come to Austin Forum, it's going to be an amazing experience. We're going to learn a lot. When we volunteer at a habitat or a food bank or a local organization like Keep Austin Fed, we're hoping that the atmosphere that's being created will actually make a positive impact to the organization, right? How many people just volunteer just to volunteer? Probably not really. There's probably something internal that makes them realize that before I commit myself to an hour or 3 hours on an ongoing basis, or even a one-time basis, I'm hoping that there's something that I could get back. I think I talked to a number of my friends. Most of my friends are always like, well, I volunteer because I could build up my social network. I feel like I'm actually making a difference. There's all those terms that you always hear, right? But when you get into the root of it, like this work is actually really hard. We've kind of already in the past few minutes just said that, you know, encouraging someone to volunteer, spending their time doing something else is a really an uphill climb, right? So there's something that Austin Forum's doing that drives you all here, right? But if I convince you and said, hey, can you go volunteer at Habitat for Humanity with me, spending 8 hours on a Saturday to build a house, would you? Actually, it's a number, hands up. Who's willing to do this with me? Oh, you guys are definitely outliers here. Okay. But to that point, there's a lot of difficulty in terms of recruiting folks outside of Austin Forum. It's really strong. There's a lot of barriers to recruitment. There's a lot of barriers to managing these individuals. How many in your companies have you guys experienced a lot of retention issues? So in our company, we have about a little less than 40 employees. Our employee base during COVID timeframe really struggled. We struggled with retention. We struggled with engaging employees. Think of how hard it is to maintain or engage volunteers. Those that aren't on the salary books, really difficult, right? And think of how difficult it would be if you ask your volunteers after an amazing experience to track their hours or even share how their experience was. Really, really difficult, right? So all that to say, I think there needs to be a technology platform or a series of tools to help make this work better, to make the matching, to make the tracking, and to make the assessment simpler. So I'm going to tell you guys a personal story, and this story would hopefully inspire you, especially when there's like 90% participation in terms of volunteers. I'm sure you guys are going to do this. My personal story and also the founding of the company is about 14 years ago, I happened to be introduced to this organization that was for college preparation. And I didn't really know too much detail in regards to the organization, but all I knew was they had this one pain point. And that one pain point was they have this computer lab full of Dell computers. It's about 12 computers. They're completely brand new, but for some weird reason, these computers were slow and sluggish. What do you all think I did to solve that sluggishness problem? Restart? Exactly. Okay, so that's step number one. All right, that was easy to solve. Then the second problem, Teresa, who's the volunteer coordinator, was like, okay, thank you so much for fixing this slow and sluggish problem. I have another problem. I have an internet problem. For some reason, all these like 10, 12 computers are struggling with internet. I was like, okay, let's go to the root source. Let's go to the router. So I tried resetting the router. Obviously, it didn't work. I was just like, I wish it was that simple. It got to a point where after spending time trying to reconfigure it, reset, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to spend 30 minutes of my time. I'm just going to drive to Walmart. I'm going to go buy a router, come back, replace it, and see if it works. Boom. Like everything worked. Teresa was like really excited. She was like, thank you so much, George. Now think of it this way. A little context, if you guys are ever curious. I used to work at this company called HomeAway, now Verbo. And my boss, Ross, amazing guy. He's now overseeing a company called Zen Business. He was willing to give me that time to volunteer. And not gonna lie, I felt amazing volunteering, helping this organization out. I was like, this is only a max an hour of my time. I didn't realize that my skill could actually help such a critical part of their work. And I felt like I changed the world. Taking it the next level, Teresa introduced me to a student that doesn't have a computer at home, doesn't have internet at home, and she uses this lab to, guess what, prepare for college. And she was applying to college on the day that I happened to volunteer. And when me being a logical person, connecting the dots, 30 minutes of my time, $30 donation for the router equals college education. To a very logical computer science nerd, that is amazing. Like, it's very rare that when you spread mulch and plant trees or you walk a dog, you're somehow feeling you're making it that big of a difference. But for me, 30 minutes of my time, $30 donation, actually saw it. I saw that individual student like prepare for college, right? And that in itself was probably the most exciting moment in my life, right? And then there's probably a story in terms of like how I left home away, but that's a separate conversation. And so to that point, how do we ensure that there is a platform that allows an inventory of these experiences for individuals like you, professionals, students, faculty, staff, anybody to go find these opportunities, be it either to volunteer or to donate? How do you like seek these opportunities out, right? Now, if you happen to go to this QR code, happens to like directly drop you into a search workflow, there's a list of these opportunities. So for those that happen to volunteer at Keep Austin Beautiful, how many of you guys volunteer at Keep Austin Beautiful? Oh, not that many. Oh, okay. Austin Park Foundation. Okay, all right. So you might have experienced GivePulse through these organizations. That's just a few sampling of organizations that we work with. I think part of it is, how do you simplify the process so that way there's an inventory of these experiences, so that way in one single workflow you could access it. We were founded in 2012, so this is like our 12th year, 11th year. We have over 600,000 organizations, and that's organizations in Austin and throughout the nation. We're finally expanding into Mexico and Canada and Australia, a lot of the English-speaking countries. Every year, there's over 10 million impacts. Now, what does impacts mean? It's an aggregate of all the outputs in regards to hours, your reflection, your testimonial and experiences inside the system annually, right? So we have a lot of engagement. The platform itself, as with other technology companies, needs to collaborate, or at least to allow individuals to collaborate, curate, capture all this information, so that way we can collectively understand that we're actually doing a positive benefit to the company. Since we're here in Austin, if you happen to get the opportunity, be it the city of Austin, be it Zen Business, my good friends at Zen Business, you happen to volunteer at Austin Park, or you happen to be affiliated with UT Austin, we are there, right? We have the opportunity to allow you to connect to the community in a deeper way. So some thoughts in terms of the industry. There is a plethora of competitors in this space. We're very focused on being that complete suite that helps address all of those pain points that are here. But I'm gonna navigate, I'm gonna just point you on to like one of the most key critical bullet points. And I think the biggest thing that I feel like is really difficult is connecting the dots between a volunteer and a donor. I think a lot of us volunteer and automatically assume that you're not going to ever donate. But I happen to believe that there's a series of experiences that, depending on what your volunteer experience is, it could compel you to potentially donate, right? And so that is something that we're very focused on. And I think there's also a lot of opportunities for businesses, large and small, from Blackbaud to us, trying to innovate in the nonprofit industry, because the ones that are actually doing the hard work, working with the homeless individuals, working with the different various parts that we want to see being beautiful, they're doing the hard work, and we need to actually inject a ton of innovation to help support and let them do their work, right? And so with that said, I think what's most critical about this forum, this theme, is we have to make sure that, similar to the concept of you're in a plane, you're flying, and before you all of a sudden take care of your friend or your family member and put the mask on in the case that there's turbulence, you got to take care of yourself. And I think in this case, we want to make sure that you have to be physically able, mentally able before you could help other people. But if you have the capacity to always have that mindset of giving back, let me know. GivePulse.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you, George. All right, we have a little extra time tonight for Q&A, which is great. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions of all three speakers and then bring up our secret moderator for tonight. So softball question for each of you. Where do your products currently stand in terms of their availability to this audience and to all the people they might recommend them to? Scott.
Our app will launch January 1st, and we're expecting to have a beta that you can start testing next week.
So next week, beta, will people in the room be able to sign up for that beta?
Yep. Go to myworkout.ai, the sign up page, and you'll see it there, or just in the bottom, give us your email and we'll keep you informed.
Great. Julie.
We'll have our beta early January and we'll be launching mid-February.
Outstanding. George, your app's been around for a while.
Beta in 2012.
How do people download it? Just go to the App Store and download GivePulse?
Yeah, you could go to the App Store. You can actually just go to GivePulse.com.
All right. One more question. Same question for all of you. Actually, Scott, you already explained how AI is being used in your app. And I think that's great because it's pretty easy to have something like an Apple Watch nudge you when you haven't taken enough steps, but incorporating AI to guide you in the workouts, get you through plateaus. I thought that was fantastic. Julie, you talked about AI in yours as well, but I'm going to ask you, do you have any plans downstream for the AI monitoring your communications if you choose to opt in and it saying something like, Jay, that seemed very stressful the way you answered that email to Worley yesterday. So, is there something going on? Is there something you want to talk about? Are you going to have a plan downstream where it can actively monitor you just as the physical monitoring goes on?
I love that question. Yes, we do plan on doing that. And if we feel like there are any young athletes, because we're starting with athletes, I'd love to start with all children, as I'm sure y'all know, but we're starting with athletes. And we not only want to be able to monitor AI and what they're working with, but we also want to be able to connect them right away with the 988 mental health hotline. So if we know that they're in distress, they talk about self-harm, immediately can go to 988 mental health hotline and then they can get more assistance.
Great. George, similar question for you. I love the fact that you make it easier to find volunteering opportunities that fit your schedule and that fit your interests. Or you have any plans for incorporating AI so that if I don't go and look at the app, just as it might nudge me to work out or nudge me to seek counseling, will it nudge me and say, Jay, you like working with your hands and there's a project coming up in 3 weeks and I noticed you're not traveling that weekend. Maybe you should sign up for that.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to answer that question by solving the chicken egg situation, because you need an inventory of these experiences to populate onto the system for people to find. So we have an advisory group of universities and also the community members, and a lot of it is also what are some of the things that are happening in the city that actually will inform them what experiences need to be introduced as a volunteer opportunity. So that's one side of it. As for the volunteer side of it, to solve that chicken egg situation, the volunteer, depending on if you're looking at a retiree is going to be very committed to this one nonprofit and they're going to stick to it. But the new age generation of volunteers are always looking for unique experiences to meet new people. And I think part of it is understanding that it changes over time, changes based off of the experiences, changes off of like where they are in their educational journey. And so if they happen to be, let's just say, a higher education student, they might be focused on, let's just say, a specific nonprofit, but it levels up meaning they might want to enjoy a ton of random experiences that are short one-time experiences, but then the next year it's more of how can I actually introduce advocacy or introduce like my voting capabilities to actually move this cause further. And so it's like, in terms of introducing AI, it's understanding that people changes their their path a lot.
Mhm.
And so how do we have AI introduce a couple signals that would guide them through a different pathway, right? Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, awesome. Great answers to those questions. And I asked those two questions to give everybody a chance to get their final questions in. Remember, one question will be picked as the winner for the South by Southwest 2024 badge, but we appreciate all questions. And I realize now that I said our question moderator was secret, but he also introduced himself in the chat using my Slack account. So you've all figured out who it is. He's an Austin entrepreneurial hero. He's a true visionary. A lot of people describe themselves that way, but Worley absolutely is. Please welcome Worley to the stage.
Jay tricked me. I didn't think I had to do it from up here. Okay, so first of all, we got a lot of questions this time. I'm really excited about that. But there's a question for all three speakers that I think we should start with. And we'll just go Scott, Julie, George with this one. And that question is, the subject matter seems to be around an incentive for participation. So should government create incentives as in tax credits or increased tax refunds or some sort of incentives? And should corporate America design a line of items for financial gain based on employee participation? These programs are supporting some of the efforts you guys are doing. Scott, we'll start with you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Simple answer is yes. It's great when the government puts certain programs like that out there to incentivize volunteering, to incentivize people to be involved in health and wellness. And there's a lot of that out there already. So absolutely.
Julie?
Yeah, I mean, as much help as we can get around this, right? And there's not, in my humble opinion, there's not being enough done. So absolutely.
Excellent. George?
I think in the corporate world, there's a lot of benefits already. There's a lot of instances where folks are volunteering and then the company essentially matches those hours. I've been traveling around the world and I got the opportunity to be in Australia, and not to be a knock on Australia, but a lot of the philanthropy doesn't exist there like it is in America. It's all government funded. And so that takes out of the opportunity for innovation. And it takes out the opportunity for a lot of nonprofits to address certain focus areas that should be addressed. So it's just very fascinating. So all that to say, I think more incentives is always better, but not having incentives is a disincentive. So if there's a way to have the government do this, then great.
Excellent. Okay, so there's a lot of questions. I'm going to try to get through as many as we can. Jay, how much time do you have? Will you give me Okay, we have way more than 20 minutes worth of questions. But and Julie, just so you know, there's a ton of questions for you, but I don't want to pick on you. There's a lot for all three of you. I'm going to stick to a couple of those because they're very interesting. The next one for all three of you, which I think for investors, for other people, will be very interesting, is how will you monetize your platform's altruism? Scott?
Well,
Scott, you started with.
It's a great question. You monetize it by, there's two things, both for our platform and me personally. The platform will have a foundation, so a certain amount of profits, and as a startup, we've got to pay a couple bills to start. So the faster you all sign up and get going, the faster we can start building that foundation, as well as a personal foundation for myself that will allow us to again reach those millions and tens of millions of people and bring health and wellness to the whole world.
Julie?
Okay, well, we have two different ways. One, individually, it's free with ads. It's 99 cents without ads, and most in-app cost will be $10. So that's a Chick-fil-A sandwich, we feel like, for the athletes and students, and we feel like that's affordable. It's starting with college athletes. We want, and the reason we're really trying to focus on college athletes is because we want to get NIL, individual teams, athletic departments, corporations. We want to get Nike to say, hey, sign up your 120 schools and give these kids deserve it. And let's sign them up on both corporations. So we're starting off, within local schools and expanding, and then, we'll see how it grows. But we don't want the kids to have to pay for it. We want corporations to pay for it.
And George?
Well, I'll rattle off a few industries that we serve. On the higher ed side of it is based off a full-time enrolled student. So for University of Texas, based on a number of students, it would be 175 per year. There's instances where we also work with cities and municipalities. So City of Austin, it's public and transparent, but it's based off of the number of programs that they have. And each program, it's about $3,000. So the more programs that they want to onboard, be it park and recreation, all the way to the animal center, they'll have to make that investment. To nonprofits, it's freemium. So every 501c3 nonprofit that's verified can use our services completely free until they actually need certain features and functionalities. If they want to white label our product, they will have to make that investment. If they want to white label emails, they have to make that investment. So there's a lot of functionality and features that they could turn on and activate. And that also includes background checks too as well. Businesses for corporate social responsibility, if they wanted to leverage our product for fundraising all the way to volunteer engagement, it's also based off of full-time employees. So Zen Business, they make about $3 to $5K investment to activate all their employees to go volunteer throughout the nation. Right. So hopefully that helps.
That's awesome. Also, Jay, I'm very impressed. We get a lot of questions that are for the whole panel tonight, which is awesome. So I'm going to go to the next one, which is very interesting to me. This one's a little bit more about you guys as individuals and not about your businesses. Each of you are doing wonderful things. How did you find your calling, that idea that combines the technology and the entrepreneurial drive and doing something that actually helps society? Scott?
I go first again. All right. Mine was
Scott,
simple.
Scott, I'm not a professional moderator, so I want to give you a
okay.
newsflash, but you're going first every time, buddy.
I'm in. I came prepared. I knew I was going first tonight. I've always been someone who's given back. It's important to me. Pay it forward. I've had amazing mentors and coaches in my life, so always that. In the last 10 plus years, it was, as honestly, I got to know my best friend, and he's my brother and soulmate. Soulmates aren't always the person you marry. Thank the Lord, never doing that with you. We lived together once, didn't go so well. No, but knowing what he does for student athletes and people for health and wellness, and we always said, how do we bring it to the world? And literally, with all the things I've done, when he asked that one question, have you heard of ChatGPT 9 months ago? Like the light bulb was, oh, we can actually bring health and wellness and what we both want to do for the world to the world through AI and technology. It was just that moment that I was like, oh my God. And ever since, there's a couple of days every now and then where I'll either text him or one of our advisors or my kids who are advisors to me too, and just like, all right, I'm freaking out because I think we're actually gonna be reaching millions of people. Oh crap, what are we doing? They're like, you're doing what you want to do. I was like, oh, that's right. Okay. Breathe.
That's-
Right.
That's awesome. Julie?
Well, because I struggled at such a young age with mental health, with depression and anxiety, I always thought there was something wrong with me, and people didn't talk about it back then. And as I went on to get my master's and learn more about mental health, and when I went through what I went through quite a few years ago, when you feel so blessed to be able to be alive and know that there's nothing wrong with you and that there's tools and there's resources and things for people to help you, you want to be able to share that. You want to give that back because as the numbers say, 1 in 5 people are struggling. And when it comes to kids and creating NUI in a space for athletes, obviously I talked about my kids already, but my son, he's a basketball player through and through. He's 14 now. He went through something about a year and a half ago. And I started to understand that these kids at a young age who are athletes are going through a lot of stress when the game should still be enjoyable at 12 and 13, because now they see that people are getting recruited when they're sophomores in high school, and they have social media and they see all these things. So combining those two things together made me, I realized I wanted to start focusing on athletes. And the statistics with college athletes are staggering, and that this would be a good platform and a place to start, but really wanting to go back. And I don't want any kids to have to feel like that. And with AI, I'm telling you, I would have used that when I was younger. I would have gone into the AI and I would have talked to it, because I felt so alone. And I thought, you know, that is such a great space, even if it's not another person, to say hey, listen, there's so many people going through this, and here's things that you can do too. And when you feel embarrassed or you feel ashamed and all of these things that you go through whenever your mind isn't operating, you know, like, and you don't have the tools and you don't know any different, that can change a child's life. So it just all kind of came together, really through my own personal journey and wanting to always help others as well. So yeah, thanks.
And George?
I was just in a session 2 hours ago, and I had maybe about 50 plus students asking me a similar question, but I'm going to answer in this specific forum something that I didn't share to them, and that is I'm a product of my parents, and because I remember vividly my mom always getting annoyed that there's always somebody knocking on the door asking for money, but she literally opened the door a couple of times, and it was a policeman and it was also a fireman, and they were pretty much asking for donations. And I don't think she literally told me this, but like her act of showing as an example of caring about social service that's really critical and important to the city was instrumental for me to understand, wow, we should actually support these social service programs. We should support our firemen. We should support our police folks. And what's also really funny is right around the same time, our city manager, who happens to be our neighbor in Fairfax, Virginia, he noticed that I had a really interesting mindset in regards to gardening. So my parents would love gardening. They made me garden a lot, and I used to really love just digging in and just pulling out all the weed, like the grass weed, and what's funny is Bob, who's the city manager of Fairfax, was like, "Hey George, can you also pull weed in my lawn?" And without even asking, I was like, "Of course." And still to this day, we never asked him for any money, which is amazing, right? It's like early days of volunteering. Didn't really even think about it. It's just helping your neighbor, right? And so I think that helped create that foundation for me. Yeah.
That's a wonderful story. I want to get into some of the individual questions. And Scott, since I've been so grossly unfair to you, we'll stick with George for 1 second. So you won't have to go first this one time, but just so you know, you're first.
I'm ready.
You're first
I'm
for the
ready.
next question. George, really interesting question. How do you help bring off-platform data about health and volunteering, feelings, etc., into technology without limiting the usage? When you're getting those people volunteering and all that, how do you make it where they're doing that and you're getting valuable data to improve the platform without it kind of creating any kind of, turbulence with that relationship?
I feel like I need to process this question.
I
Yeah.
have processed it reading it, so I totally agree. So
Can I process it a little bit more?
you sure can. I tell you what, process it more, and we have a question that is for Scott and Julie. I just have to find it here. Okay. How do you manage or factor in self-reporting bias, similar question, for the participants in your apps? Like they say they're feeling great. I guess Julie, in the case of the example you gave us, but maybe they're not actually feeling great. But they don't want to say it. So they want to say they feel real bad, but they'll say they're just feeling meh. And Scott, this carries over to yours as well, and you can kick us off.
Sure. To some extent, the answer is you can't fully. If someone says that 50 pounds of weight felt great, give me 100, the app's going to do it a little bit. But there are some checks and balances in there to say, well, that's too big a jump. And, a lot of, Jason looks at workout programs, you're not going to go from 50 to 80 pounds. That's just not how it works. So we put some governors in there on that. But if they keep every day saying, no, this was too light and some level, the app's going to give it to them. So you can only protect it so much, to be honest.
Yeah, and Julie, I'd like to know if you agree with that. And also, I know that, with your app in particular, kind of working on the mental health thing, that could be a really important factor for you. Do you have anything, communities or any like friend ties or anything where people are kind of, maybe there's a way for people, and maybe this goes for both of you, to kind of check on that, kind of keep people honest, or how does that work?
Well, we're always going to have people that say they're fine. And I was one of them. I was fine all the time. And I've we'll definitely have ways where through mentors and other people speaking with them that we want to gently, talk to them and ask them questions if we're not feeling like they're fine. But it's also everyone's journey. And I think that sometimes it just takes time for people to open up. And it's a hard thing to do. It's not easy to say you're not fine and that you need help. And in fact, it's one of the hardest things that people have to say. So, what I really want Nui means big and huge in Hawaiian. We want to do big and huge things, but we also want to be, a safe and gentle space for people to say that they're fine for a little bit, and they will come around when they're ready.
So would it be fair to say, kind of, in your case, you've got some mechanisms for it, and in your case, you have some mechanisms, but also you feel that creating that greenhouse safe space, that they're going to be more honest with you in general?
I do.
Okay. George,
I
we
think I'm
can
ready
come
now.
back if you processed
Oh,
it,
no,
but I
I'm
have
ready, I'm
an
ready.
alternative question that was for
Ready.
you. If you, okay,
It's
go
okay.
for it. Sure.
Yeah, if you don't track it, you don't manage it. And I think part of all the different various industries that we serve, to think about it from a UT standpoint, University of Texas at Austin, the reason why they're making an investment is on us is because they want to determine if volunteering actually introduces their student learning outcomes. As in, if I happen to attend UT Austin for 4 years, am I just learning everything in class? Or is there other things outside of class that they're learning? So understanding student learning outcomes is really, really important. Engaging that using our technology tools to assess student learning over their journey, their 4 or 5 year journey is really important. From a Zen business standpoint, I think every single time you volunteer, you might want to say you feel better, but if you don't have the instruments and the tools to actually gauge that sentiment, be it either a qualitative assessment, you won't know, right? So by tracking and managing it, you will have that tool. So Zen Business, I think in their 1 year working with us, they've done an amazing job of engaging employees, and there has been a morale boost during that time frame. Now, I can't attribute 100% towards volunteerism, but I
I
think
mean,
it's
but
one
as an
element.
entrepreneur, you should though, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's all gift.
100%, George. That's all you.
There you go. Thank you. Oh, and
Go
then
ahead.
finally, I think from a especially from a social impact standpoint, I think I was just in a breakfast. I'm not sure if you guys know Steve Way or Harvey Ring. They're great mentors and advisors of mine, and I think part of the difficulty with volunteering is you don't know if you're actually positively impacting the organization or even addressing the pain point that that nonprofit is trying to cause, right? Or trying to address. A lot of us make an investment in a nonprofit, hoping that the nonprofit actually will solve it completely, as in the nonprofit won't cease to exist, right? But the difficulty is if you're not tracking it, you're not managing it. And a lot of the volunteerism has been just track your hours, but it's not really understanding deeply what they're doing to actually move the needle, right? And so there needs to be a partner like us to help the nonprofit track it well and actually determine if we're allocating the right resources to the right programs that will actually do a positive.
And George, I was not chuckling at your answer, but both times you've been speaking, the library has told us they were closing very loudly to distract both in your presentation and in that answer. So I'm going to give you another one that's that I think is actually really interesting one. For volunteering, can you find a way for an individual to go through an orientation and or a background check for multiple organizations in one swoop? So you kind of have like maybe a pre-certified volunteer?
Love it. That is exactly what we're trying to solve. You create one volunteer profile and you don't need to create yet another volunteer profile. If you do the background check, if you've done the training, in theory, you should be able to volunteer anywhere, right? So that is one of the pain points that we're trying to solve. You create one profile and it's the only profile you'll need.
All right. And Scott, we're going to come back to you. Had an interesting question about kind of the design of your app. It says, wait, sorry, the willingness to, sorry, let me hit this. Willingness to change is a measure of cognitive and emotional buy-in to the change. How do you build in your products or have your products factor in a person's willingness to change? You mentioned in your talk, we want to go work out, then we kind of stop and all the things. So that's a really good question for you.
How's the second word I told you? Remember, community.
I remembered.
you've got to bring them into community. Yes, there's push notifications. There's things say, good job today. Hey, 5 days in a row. Or, hey, you haven't been here in 5 days. Are you okay? What's going on? Hey, come on back. We're here for you. And that's Guy in Phoenix getting out there and engaging with them through the community. We actually have an app within the app that is all the community, and so they can interact with other tech leads, as we call everyone who's going to be using the app. So it's the community, it's the engagement, it's experts like Jason, experts like Julie on the mental health, things like that, who will be part of that community so they can get access to that as well.
Okay, and our last question, Julie, we're going to give it directly to you, which is, should parents be concerned about who and what entities have access to this type of data collected about their kids? I mean, I think they do in general, but when it comes to things like mental health and all, what are your feelings on that? Like, is that something as a parent that you worry about your children and, who might be accessing that data?
Oh, all the time. But if I let those fears consume me, then I'd move to a small island and not let my kids be involved in anything. I mean, there's so many things as a parent you're fearful of as soon as they step out the door every day and they go to school. So, it's just doing the best that we can to make sure that they're protected. And, we're really focused on the mental performance side. And so how do we enhance their mental performance? And we want to we want them to think of it like their physical health. So that's the way we're trying to think of NUI, and we want them to think of their mental health as like a mental performance and how can we win the day. Yeah, so
Okay, and Jay said we have time for one more question. Huh? The winning question. Oof. Okay, I have to pick the winning question. I don't like that kind of pressure. Just gonna tell you right now. All right. I don't feel like I was adequately briefed on this entire thing. First of all, I did not know I would be on stage. I thought I was just gonna sit there and yell questions from the audience, which sounded cool. I did not dress for being on stage, obviously, as you guys can tell from my Captain America Yiddy shirt. Anyway, this question's gonna be for all of you. This is, I think is in my opinion, the winning question. I don't know if this person is here or not. Okay, is Karthik here or not? Perfect. I love this question. It seems that the apps of all three presenters rely on intrinsic motivation and rewards to maintain compliance and interest. Historically, humans respond better to extrinsic, perhaps monetary or something of value that can be exchanged rewards. Do you incorporate any sort of eccentric rewards in your systems? Like, do you have anything that's not just you're feeling good? Do you have stuff maybe you could trade somewhere, or points or monetary things? Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the gamification of it, right? And they'll win they'll earn badges. They'll earn badges based on how much they're using the app and how they're progressing based on their goals. We're not benchmarking versus we're all different physically, right? So we're not going to benchmark, but you'll earn your badges. Your badges will earn you points. Eventually, your points will get you whether it's cool shirts like this. By the way, go to like this. And eventually when we get up into the metaverse, and then you get into NFTs and tokenization. And so, yes.
yeah, we're working on that right now. So we want to be able to reward through gamification in a way that makes sense, but that also supports their mental performance. Oh, how should I say this? I'll just keep it brief, is that we're working on that right now. So I won't go into the details, but we want to make sure that whatever that they're doing is that they're feeling empowered and engaged and equipped with everything that they need. And we don't want this to feel like another space of, we don't want them to feel overwhelmed. They have so much on their plate right now, right? They have the games, they have the practice, they have school, they have relationships, they have social media. So we don't want this to feel like another stress point. We want this to feel like they're engaged. And how do we do that? So we're talking to a lot of athletes, coaches, and trainers right now to make sure that we do it the right way to support them.
Yeah, similar to this is probably like props for me. I finally got status with Delta, And that's because of the gaming mechanism. It's like, oh, once you get silver, you want gold, you want platinum, you want diamond, right? And so I think incentives are always important. It won't move the needle that big, but it will be a way to move the needle, right? So across the board, at least in terms of volunteerism, we've seen introducing badges. Like, so we have virtual badges that we give to the volunteers after they reach 100 hours or reach 1,000 hours. So we have those badging capabilities within the platform, and we've seen increases in terms of engagement. But from an industry standpoint, what allows us to survive is actually not those incentives. It's actually because it's a requirement for school, let's just say for K-12 or even college, it's now imperative that I actually go volunteer or serve the community and ensure that my faculty members knows that I'm actually doing this work, right? And so if it's not a requirement, nobody ever does it, right? And so how do you create the atmosphere to either incentivize them through that? And so hopefully that answers the question, and happy to discuss more too as well.
Great. Thank you for those great answers to those questions. Let's thank Worley as the moderator. Let's thank Karthik for winning the South by Southwest badge, and give it up again for all of our speakers.